been doing social media now. This is my 10th year full time, which is crazy. I started in 2015. And I still remember my life changing so radically, and it's never, ever been the same since. I put my fertility over my career, and what if it doesn't work? So I'm going to lose both. So that is why I don't like the word influencer for me. Yeah. Some people do identify with it. I don't. I hate it, actually. Sometimes I have coffee with someone just to be like, okay, I've done that. I don't have to see him for 3 months. And that's not friendship. It's sort of buried within the zeitgeist, but we all do it and we all know it. It feels almost like a chore as opposed to doing it to see your friend. I do look like sloppy sometimes, and I look really polished other times, and I'm really happy with showing the gap. Once I was at the Logies, I was getting ready and I was like topless, genuinely topless, out the front on the balcony, just seeing if someone would take a photo, but like no one cares. I'm kind of fierce because no one can do what I can do. And I guess that's why, which very fortunately, I don't feel a lot of professional jealousy.
Tanya Hennessy, welcome to the Stellar Podcast.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. This is going to be so fun. You're so fun. I feel like a child in a candy store. Like, I love your brain. I love the way you think. I love the way you interview. I'm kind of scared, but I'm so excited to be here.
You and I have only met in person once before today. I've got that classic parasocial relationship with you, though.
Oh, I have it with you too. Although you need to post more.
I know, actually. I've only posted once in a year. Anyway, sorry.
How's me knowing like a stalker?
But if my content was as good as yours, then I would be posting every day. But you and I met at Interval at Hamilton,
the best
in
musical
Sydney
of all time.
Last year. It was so good. And I remember within the end of the interval, we had gotten through many Disney medleys.
Oh my God.
So that, I don't know, I'm not very good at small talk. But
Neither
what about
am I.
you?
Neither am I. I'm like, I've got to go talk to Sarrah Le Marquand. I'm such a fan of hers. And I just wandered in and I was like, hey, I think I was like, hey, I heard you like Disney, same. What do you reckon about me walking down the aisle to kiss the girl? Because I was just about to get married and you were like, do it.
Yes.
It was like both of us can't do small talk, which I think is kind of fierce.
It was so good. So I want to ask you a little bit about your wedding in a little bit, but I just thought on the concept of small talk, friendship, you wrote a column for Body and Soul at the beginning of the year that went completely viral. So I'd love to chat to you about it, Tanya. It was about the catch-up, and the catch-up for people that missed Tanya's column, but we'll put a link in the show notes actually, was about when two friends in particular, women often sort of from late 20s onwards, are catching up. I'll actually quote you. You say you from that era of your life, you know, the school year, uni, early 20s. After that, you no longer coexist with your friends. You're no longer together watching movies in silence or hanging out at each other's houses regularly, doing nothing but existing together. Those were the days. So you tend to, quote, catch up, and you do what I would call friendship admin, which goes to the tune of, how are you? How's your partner? How's work? How's that dog you own and dispose? Hard relate. Like I say, it went viral.
Ticking off things to talk about.
Tell me about the reaction to that, and why do you think it struck such a nerve?
I know I do have an idea. It was like possibly one of the most relatable things because we don't talk about that kind of stuff enough. It's sort of buried within the zeitgeist, but we all do it and we all know it, which is, you know, catching up, and it feels almost like a chore as opposed to doing it to see your friend because you want to, and you're not doing activities together. Like I went to the zoo, to Taronga Zoo when I was 22, drunk with a friend, and it was the best day ever. You know what I mean? It was like, oh my God, the monkeys.
That's a cool memory
the monkeys
right there.
Are fun. The monkeys after 3 wines, unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? You want to entice or enhance your experience? Have a couple of wines at Taronga. But we don't do that anymore. We're like time poor and stressed and exhausted, and it's becomes so like, oh, I've got to see that person, and this trap becomes, you know, admin instead of real lived and shared experiences. And I think people were just like, oh my God, like this is what I'm experiencing. And I think I really like to write in that place that's sort of almost uncomfortable to admit, but it
Definitely
opens up a big conversation about, you know, that change. And I've seen so many people doing TikToks going, I'm dating my friends. I'm going to pottery with them. I'm making experiences with them and memories with them instead of ticking the boxes of just having coffee. sometimes, honestly, do you ever feel like that? Sometimes I have coffee with someone just to be like, okay, I've done that. I don't have to see him for 3 months. And that's not friendship.
That's right. And in fact, it also reminded me when I first read the column about some of the great videos that you have done online on social is where two people are catching up. You call it that chaotic friend.
Yes.
And it's just that thing where, well, I won't do a version of it in front of you because mine will completely pale in comparison. But in a nutshell, it's basically that person going, oh, my God, I'm sorry I'm so late, by the way, that's me. But then, and then there's happened, oh, my God, and I told you about that guy. And then that oh, God, I've got to go. So
Literally.
and it's obviously a comical extreme version, but that was almost a little bit of a precursor to the catch-up column.
Absolutely. And I think that's like such an interesting space to sit in the social media realm where you kind of, you're mirroring and commenting. But I think a lot of people don't think social media creators think like that. I think, I've been doing social media now. This is my 10th year full time, which is crazy. I started in 2015. And I still remember my life changing so radically, and it's never, ever been the same since. Like I have a very before viral, after viral Tanya. Like there's such different people and everything changed for me. Like the way social media has radicalized my life. It's wild.
I'd love to ask about that actually. So first of all, let's start with the label. So when you were last in Stella in 2018, I was reading it yesterday and we described you as, quote, radio host, comedian and YouTube sensation, Tanya Hennessy. And I wondered how you think that we should describe you in 2025 because you're on the cover of Stella today.
Girl.
How will we describe you?
Hot as. I've never looked better.
Goes without saying. Hot as.
And
Tanya
really
Hennessy.
humble. Okay, look, I'll be honest. That cover is unbelievable and I'm obsessed with myself. Irene, who does the styling, is so amazing. I'm such a fan of hers. I want her to style everything. She styled me for Glamour on the Grid and I've never felt better. Some women just get women and just know how to work your body. And I don't know, she's incredible.
She's an absolute genius. I love her.
A genius is the word. But I don't know. I think I'm such a slashy and people have a real problem with it. I go, yeah, I work in comedy. I write. I write columns, but I do, I'm an author. I do a radio show. And yeah, I make social media content. I would say I'm a creator, like a social media creator. But I also write television. I've written 2 pilots and I'm writing a film at the moment, a children's film, which is, can I tell you, so friggin' hard. And it's all in silence. No one can see all the TV pilots that you write and episodic television and doing writers' rooms. And it's all, it's in silence until it gets up. And that's a very long process. So I guess, yeah, I'm just a slashy. And I think in this world, people hate it. People hate that I can do multiple things.
There is still a little bit of resistance. I mean, when you talk about that 10 years and that moment, that divide in the line between going viral that first time, the culture has changed a lot. And why I wanted to ask about the label is I think a lot of us now do say content creator, and in a very broad way. I mean, I have described myself as a content creator, and I'm sure as somebody that's worked in mainstream media, as I have for 25 years, there would be a lot of my peers that would think, oh my God, like content creator. Ultimately, I'm a journalist, but as the medium, I would say, in some ways has leveled out. It's storytelling, and the label influencer, even in the recent federal election campaign, that is still getting bandied around in the same way that we would use mummy blogger as a really unnecessary, derogatory, highly gendered word.
Really
Influencer's obviously been through a lot of that. And look, I understand because obviously there are people that are doing very specific campaign content that's very aesthetic and that's all it is. And I understand why the word influencer might apply to that. But it is such a ridiculous, demeaning, dismissive label to use for people that are publishing all forms of storytelling. Yes. And to your point about the catch-up column, actually igniting important social discussions.
Yeah, and I think it's sort of like they all feed into each other. So as much as I'm a slashy, it's like, okay, but the comedy, I write comedy columns, I write comedy social, I write comedy television, I write comedy, so they're all sort of, within each other. But the word influencer, I used to write it out of all my contracts because I was like, because what it really means is to influence sales. If the word was to influence joy, influence, positivity, influence positive change, I'd be like, great, but it's to influence sales and being aligned as a commodity for me didn't feel comfortable, and it still doesn't feel comfortable. So that is why I don't like the word influencer for me.
Yeah.
Some people do identify with it. I don't. I hate it, actually.
No, I think that's a really perfect way of describing it. And it's not said with any judgment, as was me when I was talking about, I think I can see how the label evolved for that commercialization. But I think to apply it broadly across the whole platform and the medium is also just very exclusionary in that we're all missing out. I am the biggest Luddite in the world, as already touched upon. Instagram still very slow to even posting on it. I don't even have a TikTok account. I mean, this is where I am, but
it is really
I'm
fun.
not
I'll tell you that.
snobby about it. My own sort of just overwhelm and just slowness to adapt is very different, I think, to being sneering or dismissive about the really original content and important conversations that are happening in that medium.
Of course, and the way you can, you find, for me, I find content and what people are talking about, zeitgeist things on the TikTok, on the internet. I go, okay, this is what people are thinking. This is what people are feeling. There's a trend at the moment, it's about women in their 30s and what being in your 30s looks like. And it's like, what are we trying to say? What's the discussion? And then I sort of dive deeper into it. And that's where I can find topics to write about, which I can therefore create social media content about. So I don't know, I kind of like to work smarter, not harder. So I use the same content across multiple forms.
Yes.
It's transcendent. And I think if you're not working like that, you should be.
100%.
Annoyingly. And it is exhausting, especially, I'm 39. So I'm an elder millennial and I've been through every iteration of social. And I used to work in radio, which people forget. I did 12 years of commercial radio. And I only started making social because I was bored and didn't want to go to the gym in the afternoon. I'm very committed to not exercising. But I used to be on radio before it was filmed. And I used to roll in 3 a.m., no bra, and now I'm going to have a face of makeup on and try. And sometimes it's a bit exhausting, especially when you're used to the old school radio, which is just voice, because that's how it's meant to be listened.
Completely. I really would love to ask you about how that, if at all, has affected your approach to work, and do you think that you ever sound different or that what you're talking about has changed because of the fact that there is that multimedia distribution and there is that visual component?
Like a little bit for sure. But I have this really core value that is just inherently within me, and I'm really grateful for it. It's like this little kid inside me, or I'm speaking to or for a little kid. It's a little girl who wants me to show up and speak in my real voice, to not always wear makeup, to not always have perfect hair. And I feel like I have to show up on social in all different types of ways, sometimes in high glam, sometimes, no pants, no bra, because I don't want anyone to not see me as, first of all, holistic, well-rounded as a human being, but also I don't want little girls to go, oh, she's not talking authentically, or she's always looks this way. So I don't know, I feel like I show up for a little kid, a little girl who wants to see a real working, successful woman who is multidimensional and sometimes a little bit broken, but sometimes really polished, and you can be everything. So I do look like sloppy sometimes, and I look really polished other times, and I'm really happy with showing the gamut.
I love that. I think the complexity and the nuance of that is so important. And again, talking about progress in media as part of the evolution is something that I definitely know. I definitely did not have that growing up. I'm older than you, and I imagine for you definitely didn't see that growing up, what you're then offering to those young girls that are looking for that. But let me ask you, Tanya, though, about the pressure, because as you're talking, I think that's also a lot of pressure to put on yourself and a lot of expectation. And look, this is obviously not breaking news. Gee, woman working in high-profile role in media dealing with pressure. Who would have thought? First time.
But I will tell you, Sarah,
first time that's
when
ever
you work
happened.
in comedy, people kind of don't care as much. It's just a fact. I was talking to Felicity Ward about this the other day. She's like, we're kind of the scum of the industry. And we kind of get away with everything. It's really wild. Once I was at the Logies and it was I was getting ready and I was topless genuinely topless out the front on the balcony just seeing if someone would take a photo, but like no one cares. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's because, you know, you're not that, like comedians, we sort of sit in a funny space where you can kind of take the piss. No one takes us too seriously, but no one also cares. You know, if I was having a relationship with a rat, everyone would be like, fair. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, I'm in a relationship with a bridge. No one would mind, because kind of comedians can get away with a little bit more. But yeah, I do feel like I feel pressure when I'm at events to look a certain way, obviously, because that's the status quo. But I find red carpets so hard, especially when you're known for your voice, you know, and then you can't speak, so it's all aesthetic. And that's when I get a bit uncomfortable, because I'm like, oh, I want to like be creative or show that I'm more than my body and I'm more than this dress, and you know.
Yeah, I really do, because there's something very retro about the red carpet,
So
isn't it?
retro.
When we think about things that have changed and have adapted, and the nature of often the ceremony that you're going into has changed. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that the Oscars in Australia were not beamed live. If you wanted to watch, you just avoid any coverage and go home. I mean, imagine that happening now. Everyone knows within a second, oh my God, Demi Moore didn't win.
Yeah, and what did she wear?
Completely. But that part of it going in, that red carpet, I mean, is an absolute horror show. And I think whoever you are, I mean, I know people like Nicole Kidman have talked about how intimidating they find it. And some people almost feel that, how could that be? That's being disingenuous, and they're really not. I'm not saying some people don't love it.
Yeah, some people live.
The pressure of it is, but it is very still old-fashioned, isn't it?
Yes.
Because that's right, you're not there really to be talking or to be
Funny,
innovating or
yeah,
dynamic.
innovating, yeah.
It's really pretty much like, here I am, here's my photo, what are you wearing? That's about it.
And now, like, you know, on social, it's like, I've got to get social content in this dress, or I've got to, you know, I've got to get all the angles of this dress, and I paid for my face and my hair, so I've got to get all this shot. And then it becomes like all about your aesthetic as opposed to what you're there for. You know, I find that sometimes a little bit difficult on the mind. Like I'm a bit, like I feel uncomfortable in that space, but I will get more and more used to it. But like, I'm 39 and still not used to it. So maybe this is just who I am, and I got to lean into that.
Let me ask you a little bit about fame, recognition, but obviously the idea of, you know, that one person everyone knows, and it comes up so much in my team as my role of head of entertainment. Someone will be like, oh my gosh, this person, they've got, you know, 2.5 million Instagram followers, this, and then someone else is like, who? I've never heard of them. And then, of course, vice versa. So I'd love to ask you about your experience of that, and also going back to, as you said, that what's happened over the course of the last 10 years and working on radio. And yes, you could have come out and said, I am in a relationship with the rat or a bridge, but now... by the way, spoiler alert, Tanya is not. I was actually married last year, which we'll be
To a
talking
man,
about
not
in
a
a moment.
rat.
Not to a rat. Yes, that's right.
Would have been a great
to
headline.
clarify that. Renew vows with the rat if you're looking for a headline in 5 years,
so
maybe. But let me distill this down to something hopefully sounding like a coherent question, which was about your experience of fame and recognition in this era of the splintered algorithm.
I feel it's such an interesting one, because you go, okay, well, because I've done commercial gigs, so I think I sit in a weird space, and I know that I'm kind of lucky that I'm able to do both traditional and social media. I'm probably one of about 5 in the country that does both and is recognized for both and is kind of okay. You know, some people aren't allowed to do both. You know, It's really weird. Whereas in the States, the social media content creators are making HBO shows. You know, they're big recording artists. Like, it's so weird how we sort of in Australia don't have that sort of, I don't know, like, you know, Dylan Mulvaney, you know, she is doing red carpets and podcasts and is across, she's on the Drew Barrymore show. But here we'd be like, oh no, you just get to do social. So it's hard to bridge. So I kind of feel like I am lucky that I do bridge both, but I feel like a fraud in both scenarios. So if I'm doing TV, I feel like the social media girl. If I do social media, I feel like the commercial radio TV girl. So it's really weird. And I never know which place I sit. I always feel a little bit, I'm not neither. But I also know, like, I'm kind of fierce because no one can do what I can do. And I guess that's why, which very fortunately, I don't feel a lot of professional jealousy because I'm like, there's kind of no one who does what I do.
You're
I'm
a pioneer.
kind of one of one. And that's cool. It's taken me a really long time, like 39 years to admit that. But yeah, I do, when I'm around stand-ups, I feel like a social media girl. When I'm around social media girl, I feel like a stand-up. So it's really interesting.
I totally get that. It's also, I think, why you being on the cover of Stella speaks to everything that you have just spoken about, because that is part of why these conversations come up in my team about the people that are absolute superstars in the online space, but not necessarily being on one of those quote unquote mainstream platforms like a TV show or released an album or doing some sort of, mainstream gig, that also people that don't spend time on social media would recognize this person.
And I'm really trying to get on Dancing with the Stars, but they won't let me on. How's me just being like flat out honest? Because I think the audience that are watching it are not social enough. They're probably not quite on social. So I don't know if I'm ever going to get on that show. And so help me God, I will, because I'm very determined. And I want to wear a leotard and rhinestoned pants. You know what I mean? That feels like my destiny.
Yes.
But
and what would the song be that you would
I
dance
want to do Gloria Estefan. Come on, shake your body, baby. Do that conga. No, you can't. You know what I mean?
That's
Conga.
fast. That's
I feel
going to
like
be,
I could be flexible enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I could body roll very intensely. Yeah. And I feel like I'm really willing to move my hips in a sexual way, but not too sexual for PG sort of Channel 7 time slots.
Okay. Well, this is the official audition for Dancing with the Stars next season. So we will make sure that this gets to the powers that be at Channel 7. And, again, I do honestly think we know people have gotten roles after being on the cover of Stella.
Oh, Sarah, don't.
Actually, factually true. I mean, I won't name names because it's like what you were talking about before. People are looking at content online for stories.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are reading a newspaper, watching a news bulletin, watching one of those sort of nightly news chat shows, a lot of that content is coming through social media, just as the newspapers are still filling the breakfast radio programs. And, this is where people are going.
And imagine if you could
stories.
do both.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? Like being able to create stuff, write stuff, and then do the radio show. It's like if we're not being able to sort of be adaptable and I would say agile, like that's what we have to be. And I just go, when I went through uni, I didn't know social media was going to be a job. And that's what I do full time. So it's like, what is going to happen in 10 years' time? Like, what are we going to be doing? I just have to continue to stay agile. Like 20 years ago, I was a stilt walker. Like literally, I used to walk on stilts at Luna Park. I used to be a dresser. I used to work as a dresser on musical theatre. I worked on Little Women the musical, which sounds cringe, but it was actually amazing. And Mary Poppins I did for 12 months. So putting the clothes and the tap shoes on. And I just started doing stand-up and I did Raw. And you know what I mean? Like I'd never think I'm above anything. So I'm like, I'll do everything. And I think it also, when you're a dresser, you see the whole process. Process of performance is everything. You've always got to have respect for your producer, the editor. It's, you know what I mean? It's a team environment and it's about, I don't know, for me, making socials, it feels necessary now. Like if you're not on social, what are you doing? Get on social.
Yeah.
Actors, get on social. Actors, if you are doing nothing, make social videos like Luke Cook, because he is like a genius actor, but he's also unbelievable at social. I think we have this really weird issue with being multiple things, and it drives me up the fucking wall.
Really two things that I think are conversations that are difficult to have, sometimes with sensitivity and nuance that they deserve in the media or in a public forum in 2025, Tanya, and those are fertility and weight.
Yes, ma'am.
And I would love to talk to you about both of those. You've been very transparent and generous with your story about fertility, but I really did want to acknowledge that I think the only way it's appropriate to have these conversations is with the absolute permission and consent of the person that is being asked these questions. So, at the risk of sounding really self-important and very earnest, or like I'm doing sort of, women's studies 101 at university, and shout out to all those fabulous
Adrian Brody
people
might
that
have
are,
done. Should have done.
I would like to talk about that. So, Tanya, before we sort of, because it's easy to go, let's just go and break a couple of taboos. It's damn easy for me to say it. I'm the one asking the questions. It's your story. But to start with the fertility aspect, because like I said, you have been really honest and candid and generous with your story about it, and you have been undergoing IVF. I understand possibly going through your 7th round of IVF at the moment.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about, it's not easy to talk about these things, I imagine, why you made that decision and what has the response been from the people, and I imagine a lot of them being women, who have felt seen and less alone with your story?
Oh, man. So I spoke about it because I was so feral on hormones, and I thought, truly thought that the first 2 rounds, like, it would just work. So I was like, oh, so I'll talk about this and then I'll just be pregnant and then I'll just have a kid and then that'll be the end of the story. But the story is more of a chapter book than a picture book. So it's been a long, drawn out, exhausting, mentally draining process that it's kind of robbed me, I feel like, a lot of my personality. Like, I miss my old self. Like, I miss my old, really just dirty, downright funny self. And now I'm sad and complex. But like, it takes a lot of joy because it's exhausting, and getting blood tests almost every single day, and changing so much of your like food, and like I've got to keep warm and I've got to have hot drinks and I can't have coffee, and I used to be addicted to Red Bull, sugar-free, and now I have to eat all these friggin' fiber foods and high protein and da-da-da, and it's fine, but it doesn't work, and it's fine, but it doesn't work, and it's fine, but it's not fucking working. So like, as somebody who is just so attuned to working hard and getting what they want, it's really hard I can't outwork infertility, and it's so humanizing and painful because it's something everyone seems to get so easily, and I'm here just like, what? So there is a part of me that goes, I'm glad I shared it, because you can see the exhaustion of it. It's not solved. It's not it's process. It's not, oh, Tanya said she had infertility struggles, 2 weeks later she's pregnant. Tanya said she had infertility problems, 5 years later she's still experiencing it. So I guess like that is important to see that. So working is really hard. Like, I've been on shoots miscarrying. I've been on shoots bleeding. I've been on shoots crying because the hormones just take over and people ask you questions and you're like, ugh. But yeah, it's been like the worst thing I've had to go through. And so many surgeries, and I've had 2 endo surgeries that have just been so hard, and just don't get anywhere, and it's expensive, and I'm literally only able to do 7 rounds because I have to do sponsored content. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's a privilege. Not everyone has this privilege to be able to afford it, and I don't know where to draw the line to stop. I don't know when to stop, because it's like, I don't know when, because like, in the dark soul of the night when you're by yourself, I'm like, all I want to do is see my baby, and like, if I draw the line, I'll never see them, and other people get to like be grandparents and I won't. I'll go through a grief again. Like, will I always live with a grief? Yeah.
I feel really helpless sitting here opposite you, and I don't want to create work for you about telling me what to say, because you're navigating
No,
this
not at all. I don't
situation,
see
and
it
I'm
like that at
really sorry about that, by the way. Like, I'm really sorry that you're dealing with this really difficult, heartbreaking situation, and my heart breaks for you because all of those questions.
Oh, they're so intense. They're not like, what'll I have for dinner?
That's
like,
right.
when my family has like just, you know, my brother and sister have kids now, and it's like they're going to go hang out and do their own family things, and what will I do? You know what I mean? Like, it just, like, they're really very existential questions that have been on my head for a really long time, and then to try and be funny on top of it is fucking hard. But like, that's how I cope as well. So it's a bit of a duality. But I love that you are like asking about how you talk about it, because it's really hard. And I actually think that people are really seeing, like, I'm seeing a difference even the way I speak about it. And I, you know, like my sister-in-laws, the way they are learning about it is so interesting. And I can see the change in the way they speak and the way they ask questions is amazing.
Because I think a lot of people would feel similarly to me, that we don't want to create emotional labor for you, that you then have to say, well, that I would suggest that you say this, but it does seem like a good opportunity for anyone
100%.
listening that thinks, shit, like I've heard this, or someone in their life, they're realizing as they're listening to you, Tanya, that that person that they know is in the middle of their own fertility story, whatever it is, they thought, shit, they've never said it, but maybe they feel exactly to how Tanya does. And what do I say? What are the, I'm not trying to make you the spokesperson. You can't be, everyone's different.
Yes,
but for
exactly.
you, because I think we
I'm
talk,
a lunatic. What I accept is so different. And I'm like not as sensitive maybe as some people. You know, I also make ridiculous jokes at times, not right now, but sometimes I make jokes about infertility. But I think like a great place to start is like listening is like the best thing. But also if you've got someone who's going through it, just don't expect them to come to heaps of events and don't take it personal. And I think the way that you communicate that is, hey, I know that you're going through a lot right now. We are having a baby shower. You are so welcome to come, but of course, totally get if you don't want to come, but we love you all the same. Or we love you, you know, just so you still want to be invited, I think. And if you're pregnant, I think a really great way to do it is a text before you announce it. If you're pregnant and you've got a friend who's really, really struggling, and I've been through this so many times and it's really fucking hard, a text is great. A FaceTime is really hard. Don't do a FaceTime. It makes you you get upset, and then you're upset for being upset because you've upset someone else. Does that make sense? Like, a text is great. Hey, just letting you know, we are pregnant. I'll let you process this. So much love. Always there for you. Always here for you. And, you know, if someone's going through the depths of it, a little gift is great, but not around fertility. So like a candle is great, and you don't even have to say anything. Thinking of you is great.
I love that.
It's very lonely, Sarah. Like, it's really lonely. Like, and it's invisible. And so you just feel like, you know, and everyone kind of knows what it's like to be a mother, but no one really knows what it's like to have infertility struggles unless you've been there. And it's wild to pay money and endure so much stuff for a maybe. Because normally when you go to the hospital and you've got a broken leg, you walk out and your leg's fixed. Whereas you walk into a fertility clinic with a question mark and you walk out with a question mark. And you don't know when it's going to turn into a tick, if it will ever turn into a tick.
Because sitting here talking to you and listening to you, it feels like there's just a huge question mark has almost formed here in the space between us, because all of those questions, from the big existential questions to the immediate ones, there are no answers to any of them. And the answers could be anything. They could obviously go one way or the other, and you don't know. And sitting in that ambiguity,
it's uncomfortable. And I want to know, because like I wanted to go to LA, I wanted to go act, and I had a manager, and I decided to put fertility first. And the other thing is, it's like I put my fertility over my career, and what if it doesn't work? So I'm going to lose both. You know, like, ugh.
Can I ask you a little bit about your husband, Tom? You got married last year, as I've talked about a few times. I'm obviously not going to ask you to speak for him, but
I'll speak as him. Hello.
Please do that. How has that experience been for the two of you? You are obviously newly married.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Such an amazing time in your lives. You've got so much ahead of you individually and together as a couple, and then obviously navigating this
bullshit
like
together. The question mark. Yeah, he's 7 years younger than me, which is kind of crazy because sometimes I'll be like, oh, did you hear that song, like All Saints, never ever, and he's like, who's All Saints? Ah, cool. And I'll be like, oh, did you ever have Tarzos at school? And he's like, what are they? And I'm like, ooh. Like, that's when I really feel the 7 years. Also, when I was in uni, he was in year 5.
Wow, that's wild.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't bring that up too often because
yeah.
that's harrowing to think. Like, good Lord, I'm there having vodka cruises and he's having a paddle pop. Like, oh my God. No, look, I loved getting married. I felt like the whole day I was so present, which is really rare for me because I'm always so in my head. And I just gave myself permission to just be in it and it just be about Tom and I, and it wasn't about anything other than us. And we had the best people there and I had the best day. And people say, oh, it's the best day of your life. And I was like, nah, I don't know. Like, there was a day I went to a servo and they had like 4 sausage rolls for $3. So I would say that day was pretty good. You know what I mean?
Was it better than the wedding day?
Just. No. No, I loved it. It's so amazing to be around your family and friends and you just feel so loved. And like, I think I prioritize work so much. So to be around family was just, it's like, oh my God, I wish I could do this all day because people really prioritize weddings. But being married, I find it really weird to say husband. I feel like a full adult, like I feel like I've graduated to adulting.
It's very grown up, isn't it? That's right.
Yeah. And just like, it comes with a level of, my husband will do that when he gets home. I don't know. Like, sometimes I hate the word husband and wife a little bit. Like, I get a bit like, what does it mean? But like, he's just so wonderful. Like, my friend's coming this weekend and he's gone to the Gold Coast and he's just cleaned up the whole house for me, and my friend's gluten-free, so he's a chef, so he's made all these gluten-free meals for her and me because he knows that I can't cook. Would you say I am not cooking because I am being really lazy? Or what's it called when you do something on purpose, like you're being
like strategic about it?
Yes.
Or
it's called, like, men are accused of it all the time.
Oh, yes, I know what you mean. Sorry, like deliberately incompetent.
Yeah.
Or yes, I know what you mean.
I'm being deliberately
It's like, I wish I
incompetent.
could figure out how to do the laundry, but I can't
It's an
understand
enigma to
how
me.
the machine. And you do such a great job of it. You just keep doing that, and I'll just keep sitting over here watching TV. Cool. Yeah.
I have not made a meal in 10 years. I'm a genius. But I do think there is an absolute alignment with, me really falling into where I wanted to go with my career with meeting Tom, because it happened at the same time. Because I think that when you're like loved in a really deep way, you can be like the stupidest, funniest, most honest, rawest version of yourself, which is the most authentic, which is what connects the most. And I think Tom brought that out in me and like made me feel like able and loved enough from behind to push forward. So it's kind of cool that those two really coincided.
Really nice. I love that, because we talk a lot about the highlights reel, but I also think, listening to you there, Tanya, that messy middle, that you are pushing back against that narrative with what you are doing, with being so generous with your story about your IVF journey and everything that you just spoke about with such heartbreaking candor. Is you are showing the messy middle, because with the aforementioned question mark, you don't know how it's going to play out, and you are sharing that
In real time.
So I think you're already disrupting that whole idea of the messy middle in the really important and still misunderstood area of how we talk about
That's actually
fertility.
So cool. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. You definitely are. On, I also said I wanted to touch upon the issue of weight, and it is a difficult thing to talk about. I think with nuance and sensitivity. So I think more than ever, it's become a complex thing to talk about. You have lost a lot of weight, and you are very clear, or when we talk about it, I think again, important to acknowledge, it's because you did so for health reasons and as part of your fertility journey.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the reaction to your body changing?
Yeah, I think people are really curious about it because, it's a lot. I lost a lot of weight because I needed to, and I needed to quite quickly because I've been doing IVF since I was 34 and I'm 39. Why do I keep saying my age on this podcast? It's like I'm about to turn 40, so I've got to be like, 30 in my 30s. That's right, yeah. Still my 30s. Yeah. So don't worry about it. Still my 30s. I'm not even having a breakdown about turning 40 at all. I'm not even having a mental moment about it. But so it happened relatively quickly because I needed to, and I feel different, but I also feel like I understand why people want to comment on it because it is different and I look different. I get it. But also, this is the shape and size I was when I first started creating. I actually gained 45, 50 kilos within a couple of years because I was prioritizing work. I was eating really badly. I was very stressed. Cortisol was really high. And I gained a lot of weight in the media. And then I was just like, can we just not talk about my body at all? You know, it's like big, small, indifferent. Can I just be a creative being who is not their body? But, you know, we also live in a world where we are kind of, and I'm on video all the time. So it's, I don't know. People seem to be not commenting as much as I thought, to be honest. Like people aren't negative or anything like that. But it is and was solely medical.
It's interesting to hear you say that because I think that hopefully is a bit of sign of progress that we're becoming a little more sensitive and all of us are feeling a little sense of responsibility, whether it's at a macro media level or just at an individual level, because it really wasn't that long ago where you would go to a family dinner, everyone would be saying something like, oh, you've put on weight or you've lost weight or whatever.
When are you going to have a baby?
It's like,
as well.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's like, when are you going to have a baby?
Completely.
Oh, you bloody this, that. Yeah, wait. Oh, you've got a chalky neck, da-da-da. And I feel like if there is one thing I can do with the space that I have on the internet and whatever, is that maybe I'll be changing people's family Christmas. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So people are going, oh, wow, you look different, whether or not someone gains or loses weight. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like either way, it's just
completely.
And the other thing is you don't know why people have lost or gained weight. You know, I gained a lot of weight through stress, but maybe that didn't look that way. You know what I mean? And it's so nuanced. And I also gained weight from IVF, and it doesn't look like it, and people don't know, and it's infuriating. And when you're doing something and people are commenting on the way you look, you're like, there's more to me. I'm a really good writer.
I know exactly what you mean, and so obviously we have a policy at Stella we initiated in 2019 that we don't ask women that we're interviewing whether they're planning to have children, whether they want to have another baby or if they've already have one. So my thoughts on that are really well known for exactly. And in fact, when I first wrote a column and announced it, I actually spoke about family dinners and social gatherings and people saying, when are you going to have
maybe I read this.
Because so it's the same thing, whether it's two people talking about it and someone's made to feel uncomfortable or you're inadvertently really triggering somebody, or whether it is a mainstream media outlet going blah, 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 or asking someone on the red carpet, so, have you got a bun in the oven or however they say.
God.
I mean, they're all the same conversations.
I am going to continue to fluctuate. My whole life I'm going to be big and small, and I have been. That is my MO. That is who I am. I am emotionally eating. I am up and down. I'm moody. I have a weird relationship with food. I'm gonna struggle with food for my whole life. I'm going to be up and down. But I'm really tenacious. I'm really smart. And I'm really creative. And I want you to see that. I want you to see my soul and my heart before you see the way I look. Please. And not just me, like every other person out there. Like we are more than the composite we are walking around in. The bag of skin that we are walking around in, the sim,
My final question to you is this is an election weekend.
Oh, God.
So as this episode is being released, possibly the next Prime Minister of Australia will be announced. Could depend if it's a nail biter. You know, they might be counting postal votes by the time people are listening, watching, reading this.
True.
It might have already been an acceptance speech and a concession speech. In addition to the many things that are in your immediate future, 39 right now. Did we mention Tanya's 39?
I feel like I've not really said my age
you haven't
enough.
mentioned it.
Yeah.
39.
I feel like I've been really
but there will
coy on
be
my age.
potentially the number that comes after 39. That birthday might be happening later in the year.
Girl,
You'll be riding the next Hamilton. There's a lot coming up. But would you ever consider something like running for Prime Minister?
You just said running. I was like, would you ever consider running? No.
That's unbelievable. I'm not going to ask if you're going to be running, but running for Prime Minister, that's a lot more plausible, yeah?
No. Although I would like to, have conversations around women's health, around endometriosis, around fertility spaces in a political sense. I would be interested to talk to more MPs about that, but definitely not. I think I know my lane and I'm happy to stay in it. Also, I don't like paperwork. You know? And also, I just want to be funny. I think if there's one thing that, the world is hard. So if I can create some joy or some relief for 2 minutes for someone's day to feel okay, then maybe that's the job I'm meant to do.
Well, you are doing all of those things. And Tanya Hennessy, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. We'll have a link in the show notes to your Instagram so people can go and find out all of those amazing things.
Oh yes, my process-driven Instagram stories. Like, look, I'm writing this book. Look, I wrote it myself. I think people think I have a ghostwriter. Girl, no.
I know. Look, I love the messy middle. I think we should all be documenting a lot more of the messy middle.
I thought about doing a podcast, and it was called The Middle, and you interview from the beginning to the end. So when the door opens, that's when the podcast starts. So you hear the process of the beginning of the interview and discussing, like, we're going to talk about this, this is the audio person, this is where we're going to do, all of that. And then the end to the leaving, to the door.
Oh, that would be great.
So you hear all of the process.
Absolutely.
These are the videos we're going to use. Anything you don't want to use in the podcast, like, because I really think we need to see more process in art.
Absolutely. And in life, because we do it. How do we stop the highlight reel mentality that it looks so simple or easy or, gee, that was an overnight success? It's all happening. The life that we're all living, 99% of it is happening in the messy middle.
Yeah. And I kind of like it. Not the IVF bit, though. No. I would like for that to end.
Tanya, thank you so much. It really has been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. We will chat a lot further, I'm sure, in future.
Well, Sarah's a pink for lifer girl, and so am I, which just means you just love pink. And during the Barbie movie, both of us were like, sorry, some of us are pink for life. We're not pink for Barbie. We're pink forever.
We had a whole conversation about that because I went to look like fashion victims for that year. And it's like, no, I've been wearing like head to toe pink for a long time.
Yeah,
so
I'm like a pink girl.
Luckily, everyone else is wearing beige in that again. I mean, I'm in black today. So
no, you're in pink. You're in pink. Girl, you're in a pink skirt. You've lost your mind. Anyway, I'm 39, everyone.
Me.
Bye. 39.
Tanya Hennessy, thank you for spending part of your 39th year with me here in the Stella Podcast Studio. And we will have a link to Tanya Hennessy's Instagram in our show notes. Thanks again, Tanya.